Today we're going to talk about the verification or validation anyway of the ATA Spec2000 RFID tag information. Inside each one of these tags is a chip, and that chip contains a lot more information than what can normally be printed on one of these tags. So when we use the Brady print system to encode the tag, there's also a desktop software application they've created to validate that the data was properly written, and it can provide some kind of reporting capability that you can provide your customer or Prime, Airbus, Boeing, that says that you have created a tag that actually conforms to the standard. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today is ATA Compliance Manager, sometimes called Tag Assistant, desktop software from Brady that uses a TSL RFID reader that is USB connected to a PC. As with all parts of the Brady print system for ATA, you can go out to our support site and get access to manuals, instructions, videos, that kind of thing. If you forget this URL, just simply go to id-integration.net, find the project that pertains to you, in this case Brady RFID, and from there you can go into the hardware section, which we'll start with here, or you can go into the software section, which is here. This is the screen that we're going to end up using, but before we even get to the software, we have to make sure that the proper driver for this RFID reader has been installed on the PC. So we go to the hardware section, and under specs and docs, you'll see that there's a section here for virtual COM drivers for Windows operating system. The driver's right here. You can download it and install it, but if you want to see more about that, there's an installation guide here as well, and it really says that TSL is using this fairly generic virtual COM driver from FTDI, which has made this kind of driver for well over a decade for industrial systems that are USB connected but have to operate in a serial command mode. Okay, so you can go out to their site here. It even circled here, hit the setup executable, it'll download the same file that I showed right here, right? When you install it, and again, this is very important, you must not connect the TSL reader to the PC until after you have installed the driver, okay? When you install the driver and you now plug in your USB cable, Windows will recognize it and assign a COM port. How do you know which COM port it's gone to? Is it COM 3, 4, or 5? Well, you can always go in Windows and type in device in the bottom. You'll see Device Manager. Click on that, and you'll see a port section that'll list the COM ports that are connected to your PC. It's quite common that you might have more than one COM port, so just to make sure which COM port is assigned to the TSL, you can actually just unplug the cable into your PC, right? And in Device Manager, you'll now see that the port section goes away completely. If I plug it back in, the port section will come back, indicating that I do have COM 6 associated with this reader. All of this is good. Now, in terms of finding the software for this, the software itself for ATA Compliance Managers, again on that site, download it, install it, and when you do, when you hit the Start button in Windows, go to the Brady folder, you'll see ATA Tag Assistant. When it pops up, it will not auto-connect to the reader. You're going to have to go into this list. Remember, it could say multiple COM ports here because you could have other devices on your particular laptop or PC that are connected. So make sure you're selecting the same one that you saw in Device Manager. In this case, COM 6. I'll hit Connect. And if it's correctly connected, you'll see the serial number here. And you can compare that to the serial number on the top of the TSL reader. Got it? Okay. So now we're going to take a bunch of tags. We're going to put the reader on top of it, and I'll back up just a little bit here so you can see. Take the reader will just put it on top of it. And when we click on Find in the program, we're going to see all three tags here. Well, you can compare the print on here for the serial number and then sense that here. This format of showing what the EPC value is will show you the last segment should be the sequence number or serial number of the tag. So in this case, I'm looking at that one, so I'll select that one and only that one. And over here I'll hit Read and Validate. And it'll take about normally 10 seconds or so, 5 to 10, and show you results for the records, the data that is, and the tag itself. So the tag itself, try to push that out of the way. The tag itself is going to, apologize. The tag itself is going to indicate the manufacturer of the chip, which in this case is Quanray. So ATA Compliance Manager doesn't care whose tag it is. It will work with all chips, all tags. Okay, so that is a nice thing. In any larger organization, you're going to run into our ATA tags that are going to be from various companies, and even within Brady, they're going to have multiple chip models, right? So the tag section will tell you whose tag it is and how it's structured. It'll also tell you whether or not the passwords, the kill and access passwords, have been properly defined and secured. And then here in the record section, they'll give you the data that's actually encoded, and you can validate that with the printed data and any other screen data you have from your database program. Okay? So what you want to see is a green and green here. When that happens, you can hit then, oh shoot, I did it again. You can hit and pull the camera out of the way. Verify. Once you do that, it's going to create a record into a CSV, a comma separated variable file that you can access and send off to a customer as well. Where that is defined under the settings here. So hit that settings tab and it'll say the log file folder is here. I put it in my documents folder under an ATA tag reports section. So if I pull this up, it's right here. Now, if I view this with Excel, there is a negative aspect to that. One is you will see all the data. That's great. You can see that it actually goes in a one big long column that is semicolon delimited, not comma delimited. But each time you add a new record, it's going to give you an error because you can't have Excel open and try to write to it at the same time. So I would recommend typically using something like Notepad or something simpler to review these. You say open with Notepad. And now as I go ahead and let's say I go back and I connect, find, pick a different tag this time, hit read and validate. When I write to it, this file here, by clicking on verify, it won't cause an error in Windows. Okay, so I can't unfortunately see the updated here. I have to go back to the file and open it up again, but at least it won't give me an error saying I can't write to it. Okay. All right, so that's really how this program works. The settings menu here again is a good place to also do something we call bank locking. And so there's a security aspect of the ATA specification that's important to use as well and be able to document that you've properly done this. I'm going to click OK. We'll hit connect again. Notice it's disconnecting each time I come out of that and go into the settings menu. So I'm going to click on the first one that we did and I'll hit read and validate. This time you'll notice it's going to take a lot longer, and it could take up to a minute with the high memory tags. And it's going through each and every word in the memory to identify, did I lock this one? Should I have locked this one? There are regions that should be locked and some that should be open. And that changes throughout the life of this multi-record tag. For a dual record tag, a smaller memory space, there's one place they call the archival record that is always locked and the other one is always open. In this case, it found that there were some errors in this. So if we had not done this test and just hit verify because we had green green, we would be shipping a tag that is improperly locked. Okay? So it's very important, in my opinion, to make sure that all three of these are checked. Alright, so that's the extent of Brady Tag Assistant, and it should work rather quickly in terms of setup, daily usage, and in terms of getting a report that you can send to Boeing, Airbus, or others. It's really the only tool that I've seen on the open market that supports all tags.